Hello, and welcome back to the Matchbook World Cup podcast. It's hard to believe we're at the semi-final stage. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, joined as ever on the Matchbook pod by Mark O'Hare, Adrian Clarke, Miguel, Delaney. We've got the two semi-finals to cover. We will have a look at the outright market as well. Mark, it would be remiss of us not to mention the weekend's action and some of the highlights, but I guess it all came down to that England-France game for England. And the kind of consensus, they did play quite well for large spells, and you just can't get away from the fact that it's probably a missed opportunity for them, I guess.
Yeah, I do think it was a missed opportunity. I think England, game player for player, were more than good enough to win that game against France. And I thought they played well for the most part. But in tournament football, playing well doesn't necessarily equal winning results. And the key details can be crucial. And I think it was, it's not just my opinion. I think it's widespread opinion now that England probably weren't good enough in both boxes, really. And France took their opportunities when they came. England didn't, and that's football for you. And I think some of the narrative or some of the sort of talk on social media is probably a bit overblown, but there was a suggestion that England dominated France, which I would contest. England were the better team, but to say they dominated France would probably be a bit too far. If you take out the two penalties, France actually won the expected goals battle. If you take out the two penalties, England only had one shot more than France in the penalty area as well. So, it does come down to those fine key moments. And unfortunately for England, it didn't go their way this time around. But I am a believer that, if you knock on the door often enough, at some point you will get the results you're looking for. And, if I was an England fan, I'd be very positive about the next 18 months or the next 4 years, really, because there's a crop of really exciting youngsters coming through. There's a confidence and a belief about the group as well, which makes them, serious challenges when the Euros come around in 18 months' time or whatever. So, I think there's a lot to be positive about. We'll wait to see now if Gareth Southgate does decide to stay on, which I think he's probably very likely to do so. So there's a lot to be positive about, but ultimately, in the big game, England haven't been able to get the result that they craved, and that wait for a World Cup has to go on another 4 years.
Yeah. You see, I was going to bring in Miguel. I see Adrian laughing, chomping at the bit to get in. You've been a long-time critic of Gareth Southgate, but you were overall impressed with his approach by and large this tournament.
I can't really find too much to criticise. I genuinely can't. I think he should have kept Bukayo Saka on the pitch. I think that substitution was a mistake. You've got to look at the game state, see that he's absolutely destroying the left back, Hernandez, and keep him out there. I think that was the only real mistake he made. In general, I thought Southgate had a good tournament, picked the right teams. And what I loved about it is the fact that he now feels brave enough to go toe-to-toe and to play to England's strengths rather than protecting their weaknesses. And as an England fan, it feels good to watch a team go for it. And look, the bottom line is it was an exceptionally even game. I think England shaded it. But, it was two brilliant goals from France. One pile driver, and the other one was one of the crosses of the tournament to one of the best headers of the ball at the competition. These things happen. And, England are a penalty kick away from taking it to extra time as well. So the England team for me is in better shape now than any time I can remember in my lifetime, genuinely. So, I'm more positive now than I was after the Euros final, where I was just thinking, England wasted the opportunity by not playing to their strengths. Here, they can look themselves in the mirror and say, no, actually, we gave it our best. We just came out on the wrong end of a very close game against a superb team.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those listening and don't want the England talk, there are timestamps in the description below if you do want to get straight to the games. But Miguel, it's a good chat on Gareth Southgate's future. Mark, he seems from those comments that he will stay. I'm very undecided based on those comments if he will or not. What do you think?
Yeah, so we spoke to him in the immediate aftermath in the game. Now, obviously, that's not the best place to judge. As Southgate said himself, he was much more downbeat than I actually expected, especially given the performance. And just talking to a few people since then, as I wrote this morning in The Independent, the thinking at the moment seems to be that he will go. Now, apparently he was of a similar mind after Euro 2020, then went away, considered things and decided to stay. So we could well see the same situation here, especially given, as he referenced himself, so many of England's better players are under 25 at the moment. So by the Euro 2024, they'll be in their prime. It's pretty big reason to stay. And I wonder whether that will tip him. But at the moment, it's just, actually, I would say it's kind of 55-45 he goes. But that's right now. That could change in a week.
Yeah, it's just when Mark said it there, and I looked at quotes. I'm probably a little bit. Yeah, it's the 18 months thing is something that's not really been mentioned, I guess, or maybe it has, but it's such, next thing it's a lot shorter than a normal cycle. He might just stay for the Euros, and qualification virtually guaranteed for that, obviously, with 24 teams. We'll get a look at the outright market. I know Adrian is sticking to his boys with Argentina, so we'll have a quick look at the prices here. France are 2.16, which is hard to believe considering at some points in that game you might have thought they'd not get through. Argentina 2.72, and then Croatia 9.6, Morocco 13.5. Adrian, you've stuck to your guns throughout with Argentina. The lads have written them off at times here. Miguel's been in and out of kind of staying with them back, but you've been loyal by and large, I think.
Yeah, I hope they remember that when they lift it. I hope they remember that, I stuck with them through thick and thin. Look, I think France are the better team, genuinely. I think that France are worthy favourites, but for me, Argentina, and Gary Lineker referenced this in one of the broadcasts. He said they remind him so much of the '86 team, and it rings true with me. That was a team of workmanlike, hungry, spirited, aggressive, hostile players that had a brilliant number 10, and they won the tournament. It was one of the most memorable tournaments of all time, and I think that there are shades of that here. You go back to the Netherlands game. Obviously, when the Dutch went all hoofball on us, I wasn't impressed by Scaloni's reaction or Argentina's reaction. They panicked. They didn't seem to have much of an answer. So that's a red flag in terms of teams doing something unexpected. Can they respond? But in general, the Netherlands didn't really create anything again. And yeah, I think Argentina were the better team and deserved to go through. And I think we'll get to the semi-final, but I think they'll get through. And then for me, it's a 50-50 game. But Messi is the man, and that's the deciding factor in my thinking. I think he's been sensational.
Miguel, it's probably the perfect result for you as a journalist going over there covering the tournament for Messi. We spoke about this months ago on the podcast when briefly mentioned the World Cup. Imagine Messi wins the World Cup with Argentina. It's almost like hard to believe we're almost there, and it's trying to just keep a lid on things as best we can for neutrals that obviously want to see Messi win a World Cup.
Well, one of the great stories. There's not, and it's even like, I've discussed this in the pod as well. I've covered every Argentina game so far. We'll probably cover everyone unless they get knocked out and go to the third and fourth place playoff. I'll be hoping to give that a miss. But so one of the things I've done, because part of it is the experience and the amount you pick up. So after the games, I've always got a mix zone ticket for the Argentina matches. And every single game, it's taken them at least 2 hours to come out. Usually because they're celebrating too much. And it's always Messi last, but Messi always stops. He's made a point, so it's kind of funny seeing. It's interesting seeing those dynamics, the way he's taken on this vocal role, and just the amount of emotion and emotional momentum around the team. And while I think, say, like Brazil 2014, that has a propensity to crash. It could well happen, say, that they just get through Croatia, and then maybe France do something similar to them that Germany did to Brazil in 2014. Although I don't think anything like to that scale. It just feels the moment. Like Messi, you could see it in the Dutch game. He's like a man possessed at the moment. I've never seen him like that. I've never seen him speaking like that. I've never seen him have like these reactions where he's kind of provoking the opposition, so defensive, and that does have a psychological effect on everyone around him.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch. Mark, very briefly, if on the outright market, if I had to give you a free bet on one of the other two outsiders, for those that maybe want a small interest and don't want to be betting with the matches, given the markets are probably about right by and large. Croatia 9.6, Morocco 13.5. Who would you take?
Cheers, Dan.
You're welcome. Courtesy to this.
Hospital pass. Who would I take? Just take Morocco. Bigger price. I think obviously if you're backing on odds, Croatia or Argentina is the more even game, and we'll get to it. But I think they're a bit too skewed in Argentina's favour. But so there, you'd say Croatia got a better opportunity to reach the final. But I'll carry on sort of supporting the Moroccan boys through thick and thin. They've been outstanding in this competition. They've already dispatched two massive European nations. They've beaten Belgium, held Croatia already themselves. So why not be the romantic? I want to see more players dancing with their mums on the field.
Yeah.
They're
That's
one of the great
brilliant.
stories, yeah. And listen, Mark, you gave him a good shout in the outright in terms of qualification from the group, but beyond our wildest dreams here and how far they're getting in the semi-finals currently. And hopefully, look, Morocco's in the World Cup final against Argentina. That's probably be the game. But we'll take a look at the games game by game. Firstly, before we do, if you haven't got a Matchbook account and you'd like to set one up, if you enter the bonus code podcast, you get a bonus up to £50 in cash for new customers only. So all you have to do is enter the bonus code podcast. We'll look at the betting as we have on matchbook.com for Argentina versus sorry, I just get the betting up here in front of me. Argentina versus Croatia. Argentina are 1.87, Croatia 5.5. The draw is available 3.45. Both teams to score no, favorite at 1.72, and that gives Croatia half a goal start on the Asian handicap line, and the total is 2.0. Mark, you touched on it that you think ultimately Argentina are a tad too short here in the match odds.
Yeah, I do. They were 2.25 against the Netherlands, and now they're into 1.87 against Croatia. I don't think there's a big difference. If anything, I'd say, I wouldn't say I'd make Croatia favourites against the Netherlands, but I think it'd be much closer than the odds suggest in terms of what the Argentina price is here. But ultimately, I think this is going to be tight, scrappy, cagey. I can't imagine it's going to be a bit of an end-to-end shootout. World Cup semi-finals tend to be pretty tight and cagey affairs. Very rarely do they open up and be quite expansive. And it's quite telling that 17 of the last 22 World Cup semi-finals have featured under 2.5 goals since 1990. Half of the 16 games have produced a maximum of just 1 goal. 6 of 16 were drawn. 11 of 16 were half-time draws. And just one of those matches was separated by more than a 1-goal margin, which was Germany's thrashing of Brazil in 2014. So the goals per game average tends to be around a flat 2, which kind of goes to show, tight, cagey, scrappy. And I did think we saw a better Argentina against Holland. They were the better side in that match. It was quite cagey before Messi put that, pass of the tournament through for Molina for the opener, and then things didn't really open up massively after that. And obviously they got the penalty, and when Louis van Gaal went all Wimbledon in the 80s and 90s on Argentina and bamboozled them completely, and obviously got extra time with that amazing goal, free kick goal at the end of the match. But I guess from an Argentina perspective, Molina and Acuna are suspended now, so that's their fullbacks out of the picture. Their World Cup record in knockout games against the European nations isn't great. They've won once in 14, 8 of those matches ending in a draw. And I do think the draw is a big runner again. It's 3.45. I've said before, if you blindly back the draw in every World Cup knockout fixture, your return on investment would be around about 30 to 35%. We saw 2 of the 4 quarterfinals already end all square. So I think it's a big runner again. I was possibly a bit too dismissive of Croatia against Brazil, purely down to the fact that they survived 120 minutes against Japan and the mental, emotional, physical fatigue that was there, plus the fact they were brought to the brink by Belgium and probably shouldn't have even reached the knockout stages. And then if you look at the Brazil game, they did survive a lot of good opportunities as well. The goalkeeper is, again, standout performer. But what they did was they dominated that midfield area, as they always do. And I think Brazil possibly made a lack of a judgment in tactical approach pre-match in terms of fielding Paquetá alongside Casemiro and not putting that extra defensive midfielder in place. And then also to be leading 1-0 in extra time with just minutes to go and get caught out in a 4x4 counter-attack is criminal, really. But fair play to Croatia. They took their opportunity, as they tend to do. What's amazing is they're in the semi-finals and they've led for 46 minutes in this whole competition. You just can't beat them. You can't kill them right now. They're just coming back from the dead, and it's what they tend to do traditionally as well. I think I read something pre-tournament that when Croatia have got out of the World Cup group stages, they've won a medal, and they're on course to do it again this time around. It's amazing, really. But just fascinated to see what Scaloni does with Argentina this time around. He matched up the Dutch in the last game. Louis van Gaal was quite critical of that pre-match, and Argentina with a better team. So, yeah, well, whether he'll try and stick in another midfielder to try and combat, Croatia's strength, I don't know. But I'd be uneasy about backing Argentina at the price, just considering they were 2.25 against the Dutch. I do think the draw is a big runner, and therefore I'll back the draw and under 2.5 goals, which is a 3-1 shot. Again, basically backing 0-0 and 1-1. I do think this game could go the distance.
Yeah, 4.00 currently. Miguel, on Croatia, they're just a World Cup team. There's no other way for it. And they love skipping the Euros as well, not playing great. But like 2018, the Mark alluded to this year. But even more so impressive this year, given that they were written off. And probably in some quarters, you'd look at their age, not too dissimilar to Denmark, maybe an aging squad, but they've just outperformed expectations tremendously.
Oh, yeah, we're talking about the modern Uruguay in that sense. If you're going to, I suppose, look at Uruguay's history in the World Cup, But I think it's all the more impressive. I suppose when we think of we think of Croatian World Cup campaigns, they basically, there was 98 and there was 2018, and both of those was built on a core of world-class players. I mean, Modric being at what people would say a peak in 2018. He's still here now, but it's not quite the Modric even of 2 years ago, even in Real Madrid's Champions League run, where he's been taken off like after an hour in a lot of Madrid games. Also, like just talking to a few people who know this Croatia team well, like, a lot of these players are almost defined by they had kind of a lot of difficulties in their career, weren't expected to make it, have broke through despite that, and that almost characterizes the team. As Mark was saying there, they've only led 46 minutes of this tournament. You just can't beat them, and it's interesting. I mean, we'll come on to Morocco as well. I suppose the two surprise finalists or semi-finalists, who you could say are kind of almost analogous to say Korea and Turkey in 2002, but they both have these auras about them now. Where I mean, like Croatia, it feels like you just can't beat them, no matter even if you get ahead. Whereas Morocco, you can't score against them. And we'll come to that. But it's a similar sort of thing, similar sort of kind of momentum or defiance, but different to Argentina's. And it's like this semi-final is almost a clash of wills, really.
Yeah, and for sort of in terms of about Miguel, that you're expecting Argentina just to get through.
So I mean, we'll come on to correct score later. I think Mark's right. It'll be a real battle of a game first half, where we really see this intensity of both of them, or the emotional intensity. But I think when it comes down to it, I mean, it's interesting. I was just talking to a lot of people around the Brazil camp. There seems to be a big debate in there about Neymar and whether he should have come off. Argentina, whereas with Brazil, it almost felt like they were accommodating Neymar, and that actually became quite easy for Argentina. Obviously, Messi perfectly fits into this Argentina team, and I think the difference will be, and I know Neymar scored against Croatia, but it was still, there is an argument that if Neymar didn't play, Brazil win that game 2-0. Whereas I think in this, it'll be a tight game, but Messi ultimately proves the difference, as we've seen throughout this World Cup.
Yeah, and Adrian, you're kind of in broad agreement, and you're kind of attacking with the first half unders here. Great bet to cheer on, or maybe just tune in for the second half after the bet. Go on, take it away.
Yeah, I just like it. Backing up what the guys have said, I think we're in for a really tight, cagey game. Certainly at the outset. Do I think it'll be near and at half time? Yeah, I do, and you can get good odds against on that, can't you? Under 0.5 goals in the first half, 2.36 I think is pretty attractive. In terms of the game, I think Croatia are just going to be incredibly hard to break down. We know that. They're going to be dogged. They've got this unbelievable spirit. Argentina seem to warm up into games and get a little bit more intense as it goes along. And the way I see it is that Croatia will be able to hold Argentina early on, maybe have as much of the ball, if not more than Argentina in the first half, but that they'll turn the screw after halftime, the South Americans, and that wave of support that they've got, which is also a factor, in my opinion, will just get them over the line. That's how I see the game playing out. I think that Angel Di Maria coming back is a potential game changer for them. I think his pace, his ability to get in beyond makes Argentina a much more potent attacking force. Lautaro Martinez, who was bereft of confidence, of course, scored the winning penalty, and you wonder what that might do to his sort of morale and self-esteem. You've got Alvarez as well, who's in good nick as well. So they've got two players there that will feel they can make the difference. And you've got Messi against Lovren as well, potentially. I mean, how Croatia in the World Cup semi-finals with Dejan Lovren at centre half? I mean, it's incredible, isn't it?
Just on that,
but he's looked good. Yeah.
Just on that, I was talking to someone who basically knows the Croatian camp this morning. They were saying, if it wasn't for maybe how Lovren's reputation has changed for the last few years, he would actually be one of the stories of the World Cup itself. And he almost personifies this Croatian team in that they weren't not much was expected from them, but yet here they are, and it comes together and works. And I suppose this is the thing: even if they go out to Argentina, this campaign's been a massive success.
Yeah. No, they've been brilliant. But yeah, we could see a repeat, of course, of Croatia v France. I personally wouldn't want to see that as another World Cup final. So maybe this is my heart rather than my head speaking. But yeah, I want the Argentina-France final or Argentina-Morocco. I think that would be unbelievable, especially in terms of narrative and atmosphere. I'm going to go with that unders at halftime. So basically 0-0 at halftime, which is a good price. And if you do fancy Argentina to nick it rather than it being a drawn game, you can get Argentina an under 4.5 goals, which feels safe in terms of under 4.5 at 2.06. So it's the right side of even money as well. So if you are on Argentina's side, you can get them at a decent price if you pair it with under 4.5.
Okay, yeah. So that's draw on under 2.5 goals for Mark. Fun one at 4.0. Adrian, as he touched on there, first half under 0.5 goals, 2.36. Argentina under 4.5, 2.06. And Miguel is Argentina under 2.5, 3.6. We'll move on to the second semi-final. It's France versus Morocco, and take a look at the betting as we have it at matchbook.com. You can currently back France at the match odds 1.57, Morocco 8.4. The draws available at 4.1. Both teams to score no is favoured at 1.64. The Asian handicap line sees Morocco get a 1-goal head start, and 2.25 is the total. Miguel, over to you for this one. Morocco being some story. I don't know about anyone else, but watching, and it's been said in a lot of places, but watching Morocco defend is quite entertaining. When watching other teams defend isn't. It's just because they press the ball and then they come back. They've been the story of the World Cup for sure.
And also the way they really break at pace. In terms of, I referenced it when we talk about Croatia there. Again, Morocco have this aura in another way where we're at a point where it feels like, who's going to score again? Do they have this kind of almost force field? But it is kind of, I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's this kind of psychology that can take over. Now, the flip side is what happens when one goes in, that suddenly it all breaks down. That's happened before. But I was actually looking through the history because I was quite curious of it. There's only one side in World Cup history that has conceded less than Morocco. Sorry, one side since the World Cup went to the last 16, which was in 1986. So it's a fair chunk of history there. And teams had to play 5 games to get to a semi-final. Only Italy have conceded fewer goals, which is 1990 when Italy conceded none, and then eventually conceded to Argentina and went out on penalties. And of course, Morocco's goal was an own goal. So they must feel just impenetrable, and that's obviously been a huge part of it. That does have an effect on a pitch then, because it almost translates into this extra impetus, this unshakable belief. But then if France get one, and the other side, of course, is they looked fatigued after the Spain game. They looked even more fatigued after the Portugal game, and you just have that. It's a bit like Korea in 2002, say, where at some point they just can't keep going. And given France have been fair, they didn't even go to extra time against England. They've been pretty much on cruise control. Mbappe has got levels to go to. It just feels that'll assert itself. And I actually think France will get 1, and they could well get 2 or 3.
Okay, yeah, Adrian, I think Miguel touches on the big point, and it's the same in every single football match ever to be played. But the first goal, if France do get that, then we'll see what this Morocco team is like under pressure. But they might not get that first goal.
Yeah. They've been under pressure in games, haven't they? A lot of the time, and handled it well. I just agree with Miguel. I think they're on their knees physically and mentally. Just think about the concentration levels that is required to keep clean sheets when they have as little of the ball as they do Morocco. I think their average possession is around 35-36%. Yet they've not conceded a goal in open play other than an own goal. That's not just a physical effort, that's a mental effort as well, knowing where to be in the right positions at every single moment. So, and they're obviously being patched up. The 2 centre-halves are injured. We don't know if they're going to be back or not. The left-back should be back, I'm told. It was illness rather than injury that kept Mazraoui out of the last game. Amrabat, I heard, has been taking pain-killing injections. He's been the best defensive midfielder at the tournament, but sooner or later, you think if he is carrying a problem, that could be an issue. So kudos to Morocco in everything that they've done so far, but the way I think to unlock them is down the sides, because they've got the narrow 4-1-4-1. They sort of congest the middle areas. Portugal didn't use their wing backs quickly enough, didn't get not enough movement, not enough speed of passing, so they couldn't pull them out of position. Now they've got 2 of the best wingers on the planet, haven't they? France, in Mbappe and Dembele. And I think if they hug and they've got flying fullbacks, Hernandez in particular will fly up the wing. I think they can create 2v1 overloads that might just get in behind Morocco in this game. They've got electric pace with Mbappe and Dembele as well. I just think they are the team that's tailor-made to actually to getting beyond them. So yeah, I do fancy France here. I looked at the unders, but when push comes to shove, I think France will win this more comfortably than maybe we all hope, because they are the romantic's choice, Morocco. So I've looked at France to win with a clean sheet. France and BTTS no 2.3. I thought that was quite a nice price on a 1-0, 2-0, or maybe 3-0. But it's hard to predict 2s and 3s against this Morocco team, isn't it?
Yeah, Mark, I guess that you're probably more confident Morocco can stick in this than maybe Miguel and Adrian. You've plucked for the unders here, and look, I thought Adrian broke it quite well in terms of Mbappe and Dembele and those two wings. It'll probably be their biggest test yet.
Yeah, I'm just not as hot on France as other people are. So there's a concern there for me, and I would, my sort of counterback about Mbappe and Dembele would be, well, Mbappe's up against Hakimi. You're not going to find a faster fullback than that, really. So if Mazraoui survives his illness or the knock, whatever it was that saw him miss out, then he's no slouch either. So that's Morocco's strength, really, is fullback areas as well. So I feared for them going into that game against Portugal when I saw the team sheet with no Mazraoui or no Aguerd as well. But I think it just shows that this team, just testament to this coaching staff and this squad of players, that the unity, the application, the desire, the work rate, it all feeds into itself. But there's no individual is bigger than the team and the collective. They're very much, it's all about what they're doing together as a team. And you can see that in the way they press and the way they defend. Clearly, having those key players fit and available helps them. And I'd like them to be available. But I don't think it's as fatal as I possibly thought it was before the Portugal game. So, I just think it's the style of play which can make things really, really difficult for France here, because, as Adrian says, they've had no more than 41% of the ball in any of their games, which was against Canada. They're averaging 32% possession. If you look at their conceded shots on target totals, 2-3, 0-1-3. 9 shots on target conceded in 5 games, one of which went to extra time. And they've given up an XG average per game of 0.95, which drops to 0.51 from open play, which shows that whilst they might be ceding possession, ceding territory, they're not giving up good opportunities. Teams are averaging around 9 shots per game against Morocco, despite averaging 65% possession. Few of those efforts are hitting the target, and few of those efforts are coming from, good areas of the field. So I think they can frustrate France for long periods. Something's not quite ticking with me with France right now. Whether it's the midfield, I'm not sure. Defensively, I think there's a mistake in that back four as well. Adrian's talked about Lloris's potential, moments for a clanger as well. So I prefer to sort of oppose goals in this game. BTTS no would have been the obvious choice again, but it's too short. So under 2.25 goals comes in at 1.87. We know what Morocco's approach will be. It's just down to France whether they can open them up. And this bet gets us paid 0-0s, 1-0s, 1-1s, 2-0s either way. 3 goals or more is what's required to see the bet bust. And I think that's not a bad bet to be on when you're back in Morocco. And this is a World Cup semi-final. As I mentioned, those stats at the start, they tend to be quite cagey.
Yeah, it's a sort of a derby of sorts as well, isn't it? Culturally, it's going to be very feisty, I think.
I just read as well that Morocco Airways, or whatever the national airline of Morocco is, are putting on 30 extra flights as well, and they're expecting them to be sold out as well. So I'm sure Miguel will be surrounded by many Moroccan fans.
I mean, most of the Moroccan fans got there at half time the other night, didn't they? Yeah. Upamecano is dodgy. I thought he had a poor game against England. So that is something they might look to target. I forgot to mention Griezmann. Obviously, I think his work in those pockets, particularly the half spaces between the fullbacks and the centre halves, could be a real difference maker. Mark's bang on about the Hakimi. He's been probably the right back of the tournament up against Mbappe. But if you bring over Griezmann and Theo Hernandez in those sort of overload situations, I think even the very best might get a little bit overwhelmed. But yeah, it should be a cracker. It should be a tight game, but really, really fascinating. Yeah.
When these games are so big, it doesn't matter how it is. It's just the tension.
That's exactly it. I mean, it's almost like they don't need to be entertaining because the consequences are so great that the tension's enough.
Yeah, like even that England-France game, in 10 minutes nothing happened. I was like, this is amazing.
The one thing that struck me about the England-France game, though, did you not think there was almost a sense that England were trying to do everything? But like, I was just comparing it, just being in the stadium even, after the Kane penalty miss, England were trying to go through the process, and that's all good and all that. But it's very Southgate in the sense it's whereas like say with Argentina, Holland, or some of the other games where we've seen teams push themselves to the brink of tears. It kind of it was just something that struck me. I'm not necessarily criticizing England, but it's almost like with some other things, just the pure magnitude of what the World Cup is takes them to these other kind of extremes.
You can sense the desperation where England were process, which is
Ziyech and Buffal are tracking back.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what playing for the national team can do for you. Argentina, Mark touched on it with Messi. Was it Mark or Miguel? I can't remember, but Messi is doing things that he doesn't normally do. It does elevate certain individuals, definitely, and you've seen that with Argentina, Croatia, and Morocco for sure, and that's why they're there.
Set up 2 cracking semi-finals. So under 2.25 goal, 1.87 for Mark. Adrian, France, both teams to score no 2.3. Miguel is expecting France to get the job done. France and over 1.5 goals, 2.06. A full recap of all these bets will be on Matchbook Insights. Miguel has an Argentinian press conference to go to, so we're going to rattle through his long shot and best bet. Miguel, you're plucking for Argentina just now. We touched on any scoreline, any game. It's just because it's such a big game. But Argentina 1, Croatia 0. I can see that being a tense last 10 minutes if that's the scoreline.
Yeah, I think that'll be it. Messi to score. Maybe if you want to go further, Argentina 1-0, Messi to score. Go for the minute. 63.
63. You got it in.
Yeah, and I mean that's. I think the one thing about Argentina, I don't think they can get panicky, obviously, but they have that panic comes with this aggression in terms of. And it was one of the notable things. I mean, to be fair, before Weghorst scored that really clever free kick for Holland, Otamendi had beaten him in the air in a header. Which is, I think, was why the free kick was so intelligent, because it was as if kind of Argentina had actually responded to what the Dutch were doing in terms of bombarding them, and they do have that aggression. I'm not sure if Croatia have that extra nous to open them, given that most of the quality is basically up to the midfield. So yeah, I'm going to go for 1-0.
And an interesting best bet here. I guess you think it's a big enough price, given that if France score early, the game could open up. So this is over 2.5 goals, and you saved this for the best bet section, 2.4.
So it is my calculation. I think France will get 1, and once they get 1, Morocco will collapse, and France will enjoy themselves. I think it would be one of those semi-finals. So France, Morocco over 2.5.
And again, the first goal is huge. I know that's the laziest thing in football, but it is in this one. Miguel,
well, I think more so than ever here. Yeah, I'm actually off to. I think it's Tagliafico who's up for getting the manager, Lionel Scaloni. If they get to the final, I suppose they're saving Messi for that.
Very good. Well, listen, best of luck. You'll catch up Miguel on his feed and Independent. You'll see those quotes. Mark, we're going to go to you for long shot. For you, it's Argentina 1, Croatia 0, or Argentina 1, Croatia 1, taking on Miguel here at the 8.0.
Yeah, I just I can't really add too much of what I've already said here, really. I just think it's going to be very tight, very cagey, very competitive. I don't really like the Argentina price being odds on to win this match in 90 minutes. And as I said, I think I was probably a little bit dismissive of Croatia, and the fact they were able to sort of rise themselves up after that game against Japan and go 120 minutes against Brazil. I just think that midfield is better than most in this competition as well. And most games are won and lost in midfield. So I think they can, take Argentina to another sort of extra time and penalties potentially too. So, you look at the goalkeeper, he's in outstanding form. The right back was exceptional against Brazil. We talked about Lovren and Gvardiol now on the podcast a couple of times as well. So defensively, they are pretty strong. And, I know Argentina have got the little man, but outside of that, I'm not being massively inspired. And they are kind of a team of grinders as well. So I think it's going to be a battle, and I think it could go the distance.
Adrian, over to you for your long shot. Again, similar lines to yourself, Miguel, and you think a little bit more cautiously, but France will just have enough to get it done and maybe get that second. So France 2, Morocco 0, 7.0.
Yeah, I feel that it will be obviously difficult for France to break them down, but they've got a brilliant front four. Giroud is in superb form. Griezmann has been outstanding. I think it'll be hard for them to pick up. He's clever enough to find what precious few spaces Morocco might leave, and I do think the explosive pace and the potential for overloads out wide might just undo Morocco down the flanks. I can see France maybe getting a first half goal here, 1-0, then it being really, really tight and some wobbly moments. But then as Morocco have to go for broke, then maybe France picking them off and getting the second goal. So that's how I envision the game. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Can't wait.
Okay, stick with you for your best bet then. Argentina, Croatia. It's the first half unders. Love it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't think these are easy games to predict. I think that low-scoring semi-finals are most likely. And I think in particular with Croatia, who did surprise me. I agree with Mark. I didn't know they had that energy level in reserve. They're much sprightlier than I thought against Brazil. And I think they can carry that over to the first 45 at least against Argentina, who tend to sort of grow into games. So, yeah, I can absolutely see it being goalless at the break. I've gone on record and said I think Argentina will nick the win eventually, but that's not the bet here. I'm just going for a 0-0 at halftime. I think 2.36 when you multiply the odds on best bets, nice and juicy.
Absolutely, and that's up to £50 in cash, so that would end up being 4.72. There's an intake of breath as I did the quick maths on that. Mark, your best bet. This is a big price for Mark now. He's you're really confident in this selection. I think you've been trying to land this draw on under 2.5 goals. So essentially, we're back in 0-0 and 1-1 in the Argentina-Croatia game.
Yeah, I got the draw in the Argentina game in the quarterfinals, but obviously under 2.5 goals was bust before the end. So
which is amazing, really, and the odds of that. Like, go on,
yeah, typical. But no, I'm going. It's just a value bet, and if you back value bets time after time, you will be on the right side of variance over the longer term. So hopefully, this was the one to cash for me. But as I said at the start, the goal expectancy of World Cup semi-finals tends to drop quite dramatically for obvious reasons, really. When the goal expectancy is low, the draw comes into play a lot more than it already is. And I just take issue of Argentina being odds-on favourites for this match. I keep saying it, but they were 2.25 against the Dutch. So to be 1.87 against Croatia feels like a big sort of a big crash in the price, which I'm just not buying into, to be honest. So as much as I like them and I want them to win outright, I've got my own positions on Argentina to sort of cheer on. I just think on this occasion, I'm quite happy to cheer on the draw. As I said, if you back this blindly across all knockout matches, not just semi-finals, since 1990, you'd be returning about a 35% ROI, which is going some actually in football betting. So happy to cheer it on again here. I think 6 of the last 16 World Cup semi-finals since 1990 have been drawn in 90 minutes. And where is it? Can't find it now, but goals per game is around 2 goals per game in World Cup semi-finals. I can't find my stat on under 2.5 goals, but there we go. It tends to be quite often. So just combining the two, 0-0 and 1-1, I'll be cheering on.
Okay, yes, and fascinating play. 8.0 if you do want to take advantage, and we've seen a lot of people get in, and the lads have had a few best bets up there, so that's double the odds on podcast best bets, up to £50. So any of the three that'll be up on Matchbook Insights Monday afternoon. My thanks to Miguel, my thanks to Mark, my thanks to Adrian. We'll be back for a final preview on Thursday. Looking forward to previewing what should be a cracking final, and we might even have a look at the 3rd, 4th place playoff. But for now, thanks to Mark, thanks to the guys. We will be back on Thursday. Enjoy the semi-finals, take care, and we'll chat to you then.